The Washington Commanders fall to the Dallas Cowboys 44-22. We're going to be talking about the key takeaways from today's loss. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, just like Jayden Daniels is going to be hitting Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Zach Ertz, and many others for multiple touchdowns this season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Washington Commanders. So make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it as we are talking about the key takeaways from today's loss against the Dallas Cowboys. And so, look, I think that the first key takeaway out of today's loss was really the offense did not have the greatest balance. And so I think that when you look at the run pass balance today, it wasn't very good. And so when you look at the rushing numbers today, it would suggest that the Commanders had a decent day. And so 136 to the Cowboys 152 that led in that department today. But when you look inside of how the Commanders got to that 136, it just wasn't good today because there was nobody that went over 35 yards, and Jayden Daniels actually led the team in rushing. So he had 8 carries for 35 yards. He did get a touchdown in this one on a 4.4 average. But Marcus Mariota, who had to come into the game after Jayden Daniels was injured, he had 2 carries for 34 yards. And then Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, a.k.a. Bill, he had 13 carries for 33 yards with a 2.5 average. Jeremy McNichols had a really good run in this one, and he had 2 carries for 22 yards, 11 yards for the average. And then Chris Rodriguez Jr., he got into the end zone late, 3 carries for 12 yards. And so you see that really the running game was bottled up. And so even though they got to 136 on the day, it just really wasn't the type of day that you would want to see from the run game. And I'd say that the balance was off because really I thought that throughout this game, because the Commanders only had the lead for like a little moment or two, they were pretty much chasing throughout the afternoon. And so it just felt like that, yes, they would sprinkle in some runs, but it was a team that was really trying to go to the passing game to try to, get these points and things like that. So I just felt like that the balance was off, for the offense. And then I think that the next point out of this loss is just the wide receivers. Nobody won today. I think that this was really a struggle for the Commanders wide receivers today. And really, I think that this is something that is going to have to get fixed. And I've been talking about this for the last couple videos that this team is going to be tested now because you don't have Terry McLaurin out there. You didn't have Noah Brown. Now without Deebo Samuel, I knew it was going to be a test in this one. And I thought that some players would step up a little bit more. And so, starting with Jalen Lane, 3 receptions, 60 yards. I like that, but he did have a drop. You had Chris Moore, who made, a play early on. It was a very nice play. And so 2 receptions, 59 yards for him. Zach Ertz, 3 receptions, 37 yards and a touchdown. And he did have some drops as well. And that was on 7 targets. And then Robbie Chosen, really, to me, I think that he had the best afternoon today in today's game because he had 4 targets, 4 receptions, 36 yards. I felt like Jayden Daniels felt comfortable going to him. So did Marcus Mariota. He also went to him as well. So even though Robbie Chosen didn't get into the end zone, I did like what I saw from him after being on the practice squad here. Jeremy McNichols, 2 receptions, 23 yards in this one. John Bates, 1 reception, 5 yards. And I think that really the shocker for me, because I thought he was going to have a bigger day today, at least as a wide receiver, was Luke McCaffrey. So he had 0 receptions, 0 yards, and that was on 2 targets. Now, I do like what he did in special teams today. He did get a little banged up trying to go over a player with a hurdle, but he just really didn't get involved in the offense. And so I thought that was disappointing. And then when you look at how Dallas really played the Commanders wideouts today, look, I think that they were daring them to beat them because one of the graphics during the game, it talked about just the type of coverage that the Cowboys were doing in this game. And so it said that the Cowboys man coverage was at 43.3% on the dropbacks, which was a season high in this game. And then when Jayden Daniels was still out there, another piece of that graphic, it said that on man-to-man coverage, 3 for 10 for 39 yards and 2 sacks. And so I think that that was just an indication that the Commanders' wide receivers were not winning because there were a lot of man coverages there. And we just talked about the struggle that the Commanders had running the ball. It's because that was really what the Cowboys were doing. They took away the run and they were daring the Commanders to beat them in the air, and it just didn't happen. So the balance was off there. And then next, the defense just got ripped today. I mean, it just got absolutely ripped. I don't think that there's any other way to put it, because when you look at the yards here for the Cowboys, over 400 yards, so 409 yards to 341. But it's how the Cowboys got it done, because they were able to really do really what they wanted to do, because Dak Prescott, he was only sacked one time. I think one sack came off the board with Jacob Martin. They called a penalty, which really should not have been a penalty. But for the most part, Dak Prescott had some really clean passes out there, or clean pockets, excuse me, to pass the ball. And like CeeDee Lamb had a big one out there. I think that the one play that he had, it seemed like it was a zone coverage, and he just came off the line. It was pretty much a free release. He throws his hands up, and then Dak Prescott loads up, hits him, and then Quan Martin runs into a player, which essentially takes out the tacklers, and then he runs into the end zone with George Pickens. And so, a huge play like that. And then George Pickens, man, he had quite the day too as well. Like, I felt like that he was able to really get what he wanted with Marshawn Lattimore. He had a pass interference that he got on him. He also made a huge play, I think, with 30 seconds to go. I think that they were able to get some points, going into halftime. And so he had a big day. And when you look at just not only him, but also too, their running back, Javonte Williams, had a good day. And so, I mean, it was just the Dallas Cowboys were able to do what they wanted to on the offensive side of the ball. In fact, just looking at the numbers here for Dak Prescott, look, 21 of 30, 264, 8 yards, the average, 3 touchdowns, didn't have an INT. I just talked about the one sack that he had. And then you had Javonte Williams, the running back here, 19 carries, 116 yards, 6.1 the average. Even Jayden Blue had a 4.1 average here. And so I thought that Javonte Williams did a great job as far as running hard, kind of running through arm tackles and things like that. So he really wasn't stopped. And then CeeDee Lamb, just talked about it with his big play, 5 receptions, 110 yards and a touchdown for him. George Pickens, 4 receptions for 82 yards. Both of those players are over 20 yards for the average. And then Jake Ferguson, 7 receptions, 29 yards, and 2 touchdowns for him. And so he was able to get into the end zone. Again, the playmakers were able to make plays for the Dallas Cowboys. Really, you didn't see too much pressure, again, going into just kind of getting Dak Prescott uncomfortable. Then also, too, with the corner struggles as well. I just talked about that with Marshawn Lattimore. Trey Amos got beat as well by George Pickens. And so it wasn't just him, but, man, it was a struggle on this defense just across the board today. And so I think that that's another point out of this one. And then next, the penalties. I think that the penalties were just awful for the Commanders. And I think that, look, they might have had close to 90 going into halftime. And so 11 penalties, 118 yards today. And this kind of goes into just really, just discipline and consistency and just kind of getting to the standards and things like that. And so this is something that really, I think we've been talking about through preseason as well. It's just the penalties and just how the stuff needs to get cleaned up. And so just not a very good day with the penalties today for the Commanders. And so I think that really hurt them today. So the Cowboys are 10 for 79. You see the Commanders 11 for 118. And so I think that that's another thing. Next, the Commanders losing the turnovers. And so the Cowboys were able to get a pick 6. Jayden Daniels on the play that he got injured, it looked like a hamstring. There is no official word at this point in time. I'm just saying it looked like that. So just speculating at this point in time. But he fumbled on that play, and I believe the Cowboys did recover and get the ball back on that play. And so, losing the turnover battle, so that was tough. And that's something that has been talked about, with this team as well. And so, those are things that the Commanders are certainly going to have to clean up here. And so, I think that just some of the final thoughts before we jump out of here is that, number one, it's going to be interesting to see what happens now that Jayden Daniels goes down, with this injury, and it's going to now thrust probably Marcus Mariota out there. And so, how many weeks can he hang on? Because this Commanders team has a tough schedule coming up because at this point in time, they've got the Chiefs coming up on Monday night. Then they've got the Seahawks coming up on Sunday Night Football. Then you have the Lions. Then you have to travel to go see the Dolphins. And so that's going to be in Madrid, if I'm not mistaken. And then they have to play the Broncos. Like, this is a tough schedule here. And this is a team that really hasn't been able to put it together on the road. So, you have that Chiefs game that is going to be on the road. This team is already 1-3 on the road. And so it just hasn't clicked on the road this season. And so let's see what happens here, for the Commanders. Again, the injuries continue to mount up. And so Jayden Daniels did exit this game. It looked like a hamstring. Again, this is just speculating. We'll find out some more about that. There is no official word on what's going on with him. Next, you're still dealing with Deebo Samuel, who was out this game. Hopefully he's able to suit up for this next one. Terry McLaurin has not been able to suit up since that Raiders game, and so he's been out. Noah Brown, he's on the injured reserve list and things like that. And so let's see, what the Commanders are going to do here, because they're going to have to do something, make some type of adjustments here, because this is this time in the season where you need to see something. You need to see a good response, because they are still in this thing. Make no mistake about it, but they're going to have to get something together from a consistency standpoint if they're going to really make a move, because this is the type or this is the part in the season, I should say, that if they cannot just come out of this thing, on the winning side, is going to be tough just down the stretch here. And so let's see what happens. That's really the key takeaways, I think, from this loss. And so, again, this is a tough loss today. The Commanders get beat by the Dallas Cowboys 44-22. You guys, let me know in the comments here, what were your key takeaways, again, from today's loss. And so a very, very tough loss for the Commanders. And they got a tough game coming up as they get ready to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. And so we'll be talking a little bit more about this game, shifting focus here as we start to look at the Kansas City Chiefs, and then also to updating you with the injury updates and things like that as they come along. And so I'll see you guys on the next one. And as we always say, go Commanders, and I'll see you. Peace.